Hey there, YouTube. Artichoke Dip here. And I'm hoping this bump in the road with this whole entire copyright infringement thing. And for some of you that may know, I was playing music in the background while I was making a video, and YouTube had filed some copyright claims against me. So, no music, and I'm hoping that bump in the road is behind us now and I can keep moving forward. And I had created a Facebook page, made a video, and I put it on there. And I'm happy to say a lot of you have joined, and I've gotten to know quite a few of you. And one of them being Lance, who I talk with on Facebook, and I actually had a face-to-face chat today with James from the UK, which was kind of cool to be able to talk to somebody in a different country. And it was very cool. I had a great time, and so looking forward to more of you guys possibly joining that page, and I'll maybe get to know you one-on-one that way. And one of the things that talking to James that I realized was in my videos, I give you guys a lot of information about solo RPG and the best way that I found to do it and to help you guys out. And I know a lot of you guys, said, hey, thanks. It helped me out quite a bit. And my videos helped you a lot. And I'm very happy about that. But I have noticed that a lot of people are getting confused on some of the information I'm giving them. So I wanted to do a recap and kind of cover the basics a little bit and explain why I suggest some of the books that I do. So let's start out. And when I had started out playing D&D, and this is a long time ago. This is back in, I want to say 88, 87 or 88. And the first box set that had come out at that time, let me take my page marker out of here, and it was this one right here, and it came with the two books, and it was basic Dungeons and Dragons, and one was for the Dungeon Master, the other one was the Player's Manual. And it was extremely basic. The characters were basic. I mean, your character selection was you could be a dwarven fighter, a human cleric, an elf was its own class, a halfling or hobbit, however you want to look at it. And so it was very basic. And the cool thing about it was there was a little section in there to give you an introduction to role-playing that was a solo adventure for you to go on. And you read through it and you rolled your dice and everything, and it really encapsulated role-playing. And as I grew up playing this, not many people actually played it. Dungeons and Dragons had a bad rap at that time, and a lot of people looked at it as if you played Dungeons and Dragons that you were, evil or a Satanist or something like that. So at a young age, I had started to figure out how to take that little example of the solo and keep expanding and expanding and expanding. And over the years into my adult life, here we are with Artichoke Dip and me explaining it to you, and I've used it for many other role-playing game systems. And this started out as dungeon crawls. You made your characters and everything was based on a dungeon, and you went through a dungeon and explained to you how to make dungeons. And then it moved on, and then, the next set came out, which was this one right here, and it explained to you about wilderness and how to have wilderness campaigns and what to do. And that blew everybody's mind, because now you weren't in a dungeon. Now you had a RPG that you could do out in the wilderness on the way to the next dungeon or temple or whatever, wherever the campaign was taking you. And then this one had came out, and which was an expanded version between I'm sorry. This one was the second one to come out after the red box, and then that one came out. And this was the introduction to the wilderness, and then the third one gave you more expanded information on that. And then from there, they came out with this one, which was the last one in the set, and then it went to all the hardcover books. And anybody that plays D&D nowadays understands and knows that all D&D books, main core rule books, I'm sorry, not all books, because that's incorrect, are hardcover. And that's the direction that they moved, and they have been consistent on that ever since. So, as I went through them systems and figured out how to use it to my advantage in work, that's how I developed my system. So when I started making these videos and explaining this, and trying to convey and explain to you guys, I was trying to explain it to you the best way how I learned with the basics, with basic D&D. Now, unfortunately, these books are now out of print. Now, you could still find them, but you're going to pay a lot of money for them. And I really don't even use them anymore. I keep them in a plastic bag, like you would with a comic book, on the shelf. When I'm feeling nostalgic, I'll pull them out and maybe play a small game with them and put them back up and shelve them again. But for most part, it's part of my my good gaming memories of my youth, so I just keep them that way. So what had wind up happening was, when Wizards of the Coast purchased TSR and 3rd edition came out, they came out with what's called the open, I want to say it's open game licensing, which means you can make other source materials and everything as long as they conform to the 3rd edition. And then they expanded on that even more, and they made that available for all the older editions as well. Well, what we've seen was an emergence of what they call retro clones. And a lot of retro clones came out, and everything from Labyrinth Lord and the White Box, which I own, Dungeon World, just to name a few. And one that I found was Basic Fantasy. And going through Basic Fantasy, it was a really well-written, laid-out presentation of the original basic D&D that was available in print and readily available to everybody. So, which is this one right here. And I've had a lot of fun with this. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times when I want to play basic D&D, I don't go to my original books. I use this. And because, quite literally, it's all of those books in here is what it is. But the reason why I suggested this was it's rules light. It's very simple to comprehend. It's very easy to make a character. It's very simplistic game system. So with you starting out solo, you don't want to jump right into an extremely rules heavy skill set, heavy feats, heavy everything else in the modern game systems, and trying to learn all of that in those systems and then do a solo, which is why I suggest this. So I've gotten a lot of questions from people asking me about Basic Fantasy. Now, you don't have to go this route. I just suggest this route because this is the easiest route to sit down. And if you've never played a role-playing game, which I know there's some people out there have told me, hey, I've always been interested, but I've never been able to play with anybody. I found your channel and I started with it, and that's awesome. So you're going to want something simple, something to be able to grasp the concept of what a role-playing game is and actually how to run it, which is why I suggest this. Now, I'm not endorsing these people. It's cheap. I just checked Amazon today, and it was $6. It was $5. It went up to $6. And I believe RPG Now, if you Google RPG Now and you look in their link, you can still download it from free from there. If not, you can just go to www.basicfantasy.org. I'll hold that up so you can see it, and download it for free from there. So that was the reason why I had presented that, because with the information that I gave you And you can get that for free. You could play an RPG game. At that point, the only thing you would have to purchase would be your polyhedral dice. Now, I had run across this Mythic, and I talk about Mythic a lot. Now, before I even ever knew that this existed or purchased it or even read it, I had already made my own tables that I've had for years that I was using. And after I read this and seen how they laid it out, I was like, this is pretty cool. And it helped me edit a few of my things that I had to streamline them and make them run a little more efficient for gaming. Now, the reason why I recommend Mythic, I had a question and the person said, hey, I've never played RPGs before. Should I use the Mythic system or should I use something else? Well, anytime, and like I explained to him, if you were to pick up the Mythic system and you read through it, you comprehend it, you understand it, use the Mythic system. And then once you get the hang of it, you understand a role-playing game. Then at that point, you can branch out to other role-playing games. And other role-playing games, some, like me, I'm just going to use an example like Palladium Fantasy. I love Palladium Fantasy's Battle Matrix. I love how they do that, and they really, really focus on the structural damage capacity of the armor. So you really have to think in combat because your armor can be depleted quite quickly, leaving your character vulnerable. That's very cool, and it puts a spin on combat and role-playing as a whole. Whereas of D&D, you have an armor class, you're going to roll your dice, and if you meet or exceed that number, at that point you hit, and then the damage is inflicted and taken away from the hit points. And the armor is just a representation of the armor that the character is wearing, and it's added to the armor class number. So, whereas a Palladium Fantasy, it's a little different. But I'm not going to get into that right now. That's a completely different, and I don't want to confuse anybody on that. So, I'm just using that as an example. So, with this, the reason why I recommended it was so you guys could get your hands on it and go through it, and it had the fate chart in there. And I've had a lot of people say, how do you use the fate chart? Okay, me personally, for my games, how I use it, now, Mythic system is going to tell you how they designed it for to use it. How I use it is I roll a 1d10. And now, at the beginning of my chapter of my RPG, I roll a 1d10, I look on the fate chart, and then I roll my percentage dice. When a question has to be answered, or a situation, or what have you, and then I get my answer, how to move forward with the RPG. And the whole purpose behind this is to help you guys look at it and say, hey, that's cool. Come up with ideas and detail your own fate charts and your own, how should I put this, tables for your games. Because the whole thing about solo RPG is all role-playing games were written and designed to be played with 2 or more players. So they had it in mind that there's going to be a group of people sitting down with one person being the game master running everything. Well, solo, you don't have that. So you have to use an emulator as the DM and let the game flow. So there's going to be things about role-playing games that you're going to have to change, and you're going to have to omit out of the rules. And I know for a lot of people that is confusing, and I can understand that, which is why going back to basic fantasy, I recommend it because it's very rules light, it's easy to understand, and you can pick it up. And once you understand that, you can go into another role-playing game system, and you already have a good foundation understanding of how a role-playing game works. Okay, so with that, and I hope this is answering a lot of questions out there, because I have gotten a lot, and trust me, it's feel free to ask me. I love answering them. I love talking with you guys, and I've seen a lot of cool things. James, sent me some pictures of some miniatures he's working on. Lord of the Rings, which I love Lord of the Rings. He has an awesome Gandalf. I asked him to please post it to the Artichoke Dip page on Facebook. I mean, he's very talented at what he does. And very cool. And for the rest of you, that's what this YouTube page is about. That's what the Facebook page is about. For all of us to be able to like-minded people to get together and talk and share ideas, and then some people may get the aha moment and go, oh yeah, I never thought of that, and be able to integrate it into their systems and to be able to play. So with that, now, do I use Mythic a lot? Yeah, I use the fate chart quite a bit, but I don't use this as a crutch. It's very easy to use this as a crutch. And what I mean by that is let the story evolve. And I'm going to explain to you how I used this earlier, because I was doing my solo RPG, and yeah, we're going to get into that. It was just wild, and had a lot of fun. Actually, I haven't had fun like that in a long time, and it just kept me thinking all afternoon, and my imagination was racing. So now with D&D, because I've had a lot of people ask me questions about 5th edition or 4th edition or 3rd edition or 3.5 edition and so on and so forth. So as far as 5th edition, it's very cool. I picked up the starter set. I went through it, and I'm like, there's a lot of cool ideas in there. I have not purchased all the 5th edition core rulebooks and all that. And I've explained this in another video, and I'll explain it again. D&D is what I call a cookie cutout RPG system. And what I mean by that is if you were to pick up Worlds of Darkness and you were to look through there, it'll give you a couple examples of encounters and how they would recommend you to design them. But it's up to you, the game master, to design all the encounters in the game. Whereas with D&D, we get these massive compilation books of monster manuals. So, and when you look at that, when you're playing D&D, whatever version of D&D you're playing, you can take them same source materials, and there's minimal things that have to be converted to that edition to actually be used. So that's the reason why I don't, I just really don't see a point in running out and buying the 5th edition, let's say, of Forgotten Realms, right? For me to sit down and read the same story and everything I already know about Elminster for my 3rd edition copy, and from the original basic, the very first Forgotten Realms ever released. So I'm kind of like, okay, we're just gonna, and that's the reason why I do that. So you may be wondering at this point, so what is your favorite edition? Well, my favorite edition, and I love D&D, a lot of people have asked me this, is, hey, what's your favorite game? Dungeons & Dragons. It's my favorite. It's what I started out on. It's what I learned. I have a lot of great memories from it. I've had a lot of great gaming experience with it. And it's what I like. Now, I play other game systems. I'll play Pathfinder. I'll play Castle and Crusades. I'll play Palladium Fantasy. I'll play D20 Mecha. I will play Beyond the Supernatural. I can sit here and go on and on and on and on and on. One of the game systems that I haven't tried, and my friend across the pond in the UK, James, recommended to me and said, hey, this is really cool, which is called Fablelands. And so I'm going to try that one. And went on Amazon. And, well, that wasn't the only thing. I also seen the Witch King of Agamar mini. It was cool. Yeah. I had to click the buy button. So I'm looking forward to that. So my favorite edition of all time is right here. 2nd edition Advanced D&D. Now, for most part, this is getting harder to find. And the thing that I love about this edition compared to all other editions, and the reason why I use it, is the speed factor with the initiative. Now, when they designed this edition, which is really cool, they sat down and they thought, okay, so a person with a dagger could attack quicker than a person with a big heavy warhammer, because you got all that weight and you got to balance and get your footing, and you got to wind up, swing, hit, pull that hammer back up, and get your footing again. So it's going to take longer for somebody to swing a warhammer than it is a dagger. And they account for that in this system, which I really like, because it's for everything. All your encounters, unless you're dealing with a encounter that has a natural weapon, the claws, teeth, whatever else, then that doesn't count. But if they're using a weapon, it's counted against with their initiative as well, which is really cool. And so that's the reason why I like it. And I like the older versions of D&D. So I hope that answers questions. I will be more than happy to answer your questions. But if any of you are wondering, I think a lot of people may think that I play a lot of the newest edition of D&D. I really don't. It's really cool. I sat down, I went through the basic set, I played a few of the scenarios, thought, this is really cool. There were some things in there that were very reminiscent of 2nd edition, particularly with proficiencies, and that's straight up out of 2nd edition, and I thought that was cool. And, I mean, I have to say that they did a really good job with 5th edition. They really listened to the fans, and they went through and they designed an edition that is, in my opinion, a really, really good edition for people who are just getting into the hobby. And so with that being said, I'm going to move on, and I think I've jaw-jacked enough about 2nd edition. But that's the edition I love. That's the edition I play a lot. So I did find something very cool, and if you remember, I talked about, let me get this right here, which is the book of random tables. And if you're new into solo RPG, this is something that's really good to pick up, because as you go through, it's just going to give you all kinds of random tables for your game. So it'll help speed things up when you're dungeon delving or whatever, or you encounter an NPC, rather than having to sit down and rack your brain and take your mind away from the game. You can just roll a die and look and say, okay. And believe it or not, it does add a very unique twist to your games, and it'll take your games in a different direction than you ever thought. So this one, and I talked about this before, this is the book of random tables, and it is, author is Matt Davis, and it's from DiceGeeks.com. Now, I got this from Amazon, and I got this, this is back over the winter when it was first released, and I think I paid like $6 for it when it was first released. Very cool, compared to the other book that I use that was published by AEG called The Toolbox, which is about that thick, and it's very, I use that a lot. This is a very cool one, and it's condensed, and I've used it, but I find myself using the Toolbox more. But something else came out, and I saw it, and for the price, I couldn't believe it. It was like $12. And I'm going, okay, there's got to be a catch here. So I looked at it. Nope. So I ordered it. And this one is called Dungeon for the Masters. Now, made by Matt Davis. Now, you may be wondering, what is Dungeon for the Masters? Well, for solo RPG, this, my friends, is gold. As you open it up and to play a solo RPG on the fly, it gives you already pre-generated maps. As a matter of fact, 100 of them. And if you think about that, if you're to play each map page after page, that's 100 solo RPG sessions. And in the back of the book, I haven't worn the spine out enough yet, it gives you randomized tables of what you'll find in the dungeon. Now, this is very cool because, like I have explained how I'll use the playing card, and I will think of the different corridor shapes and room sizes and room shapes and all that when I can randomly make a dungeon. This one's very cool because, well, I don't have to do that. I can just randomly flip to a page, to a dungeon, and go to the back to the encounters and start stocking and playing as I go along. So I will leave a link to this one and the other random tables. Very cool book. I mean, for the price, you get a lot here. You really do. And if you think about it, you know, that's convenient. 100 dungeons and at your fingertips to be used at any time, already mapped out with all the tables in there to stock it. So, talking about my RPG, using that, I got this, so I was kind of, you know, excited to use it, and so I opened up to the first page, and I went to the tunnels of Gorgaio. So I got to the second room, and using my second edition in the Mythic, and I'm going to explain this to you. So I decided to change things up and make a Necromancer. Normally I'll make a Wizard or a Cleric, but I said, you know, I think I want to use a Necromancer this time. So that's what I did, and I had a Halfling Thief, and I had a Half-Elven Fighter. So, in the first room, they had found a hidden Black Onyx, and because my Necromancer, he does not have a Detect Magic spell in his book, he was unable to really detect any type of magic. But the way I set up my character is he knew a lot of languages of Abyssal, Infernal, and because I, you know how I talk about Lord of the Rings, I love Lord of the Rings, I also integrated Black Speech. So in the second room, they were ambushed by gnolls, and as they were fighting them, and he was hanging back, he decided to call out in Black Speech and see if there was anything there that might possibly be able to help him. Now, using the Mythic and the randomized tables, this is how it went. So what wound up happening is, in fact, there was something there. The Black Onyx that he had picked up had fragments of darkness from the realm of shadow. And that opened up a gateway for a shadow demon to come through into the plane, which at that point had possessed a gnoll's body and wreaked havoc. Hate to say it, killed off my halfling rogue and my fighter, which at that point it jumped from the gnoll over to the fighter and had raised the halfling as a night walking on dead, horrible freaking thing. So it's after my Necromancer to get its hands on that Black Onyx to keep it in the world. So my Necromancer was able to distract this thing because not all the gnolls were defeated, and he was able to pit the remaining gnolls against this entity, which for a moment broke its concentration because I had to keep rolling saves to make sure I could keep mentally resisting this thing, because if not, it was going to take over my Necromancer, which he did survive, and he was able to make it out. So now, how it goes is he is now in a tavern, which will be my chapter 2 of my story, and he's going to have to find some more help, and he's headed to the Black Mountains, and hidden in the crevice of the Black Mountains is the School of Shadow, which is the only place on the plane will actually be protected from this thing, and hopefully they'll help him defeat it and send it back to the realm of shadow. I wonder if he'll make it there. I guess I'll find out. So, just to give you an example, that was my gaming this morning, and I went through that, and it was kind of funny because I had just got done rolling this all up. This all went down when um, I had talked to my friend over there in the UK, and explained it to him. And so, if you guys are wondering, that's what solo RPG is. That's what solo RPG is. That's what it's really cool. Using the tables, I used the mythic chart, and I used the randomized tables, which just took this, which normally you would think would just be a normal dungeon crawl through a dungeon, killing monsters, looting treasure, and leaving, which turned into this whole entire debacle, which now adds the antagonist into the storyline. Ta-da. And now I have the next quest where he has to go, which is added into the other chapter. But now I have the antagonist in this new campaign I started that's plaguing the world. Or I would hope it would, because if not, it's going to get, that could get very, very, very nasty. Yeah. So, with that being said, my friends, I hope that clears up some questions for you guys, and I hope that clarifies a lot of things. And when it comes to solo RPGing, and I can never stress this enough, and you always have to remember that this is your game. It's your solo RPG. And any RPG system will tell you, if there is a rule in there that you don't agree with for your game table, take it out. So, and it's all about having fun, guys. I mean, we don't have to, we're playing solo, so technically we're going against the way that the game was designed to begin with. So we're going to have to alter many things to make it work for us and have fun. But once you do, that's the rewarding part. Now, just to recap real quickly, do you have to use Mythic? No, you do not. Mythic is just a tool to be used to give an example of how to create a chart to help emulate a game master. Do you have to use basic fantasy? Absolutely not. You could use any role-playing game system that you would like, but the reason why I suggest basic fantasy is it's just that. It's very basic, very easy, simple to understand and learn, and be able to move on with it. Well, guys, I'm hoping this copyright stuff is done and over, but I guess we will find out here soon enough. And because I'm going to have to go through, edit, and then upload the video, so I'll find out during the uploading process. And the last video I made, they would not allow me to upload it. I did upload it on the Facebook, on my Artichoke Dip page there, and if you'd like to watch it, feel free. I would tended making this video talking a little bit more about miniatures and terrain, and but after talking to Lance and James and starting to figure out, okay, I got to clarify some things here to help everybody out to be able to understand what I actually mean by when I give you examples. They're just that, just examples. They're not set in stone and you have to do that because I do that. I'm just putting it out there to help you guys to be able to do a solo RPG and have fun at it. Now, one thing I will talk about with miniatures, and I will make a future video on this, on talking about it a little bit more. And part of the hobby, kind of with miniatures especially, is kind of like model railroading. And of course you got your miniature skirmish battles and painting your miniatures and making the terrain. And I have a lot of fun with making terrain. Sometimes I'll make terrain that I'll never even really use. It's just out of scale, but you know, for a Saturday afternoon in kicks, I'll sit down and I'll just create something. But how I like to integrate a miniature skirmish battle into my RPG, and I'm going to explain that. Now, give you an example of my RPG I just talked about. I could go a second route with that, and I might. My necromancer's setting in the inn, looking to recruit new help to get him to the School of Darkness. Now, what if I was to set up a tavern, the townsfolk, and have a miniature skirmish that would also add into the role-playing game, but I could put the encounters there and lay it out for the town, the tavern, and the surrounding areas, and integrating the two into that. And that's another way you can do it, especially now they have books out there to explain. I have one around here that was made for 3rd edition called War, which is for raging mass wars on role playing. You could do that. I personally never have, because it's, to me, that's a whole lot of record keeping to keep track of. I mean, at that point, you're just literally rolling dice, looking at numbers, and doing a whole lot of math. So how I integrate a mass battle into my RPG is a miniature skirmish, and put it out there, put the miniatures out there, and just like you'd play a miniature game, and you're having fun with it because you're playing miniatures and all this stuff's going on. And, well, like any miniature game, if you play miniatures out there, you know you can use tactics, you can use thought, you can use intimidation, you can use height, you can use terrain features to your advantage, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to the luck of the die. And trust me, I have learned that the hard way a couple of times, and I have built some armies, and went to the local game shop and played some skirmish battles, and I thought there's no way I can lose because of the army that I had, and, well, the dice taught me differently, just to say. So that also adds a whole new aspect to mass battles with your solo RPGs by using the skirmish. And I'm going to do a little bit more on the miniatures and talk about that, like I said, in the future. I just wanted to get this video out there just to recap and explain to everybody what I mean, and so everybody has a clear understanding of it and how I go about doing that. Now, one other thing I can tell you about this hobby is it can be very addictive. And what I mean by that is, well, you can buy this game system and the supplements and collect all those, and then find another game system and then spend more money on all those supplements. So, and in the day and age that we live in, with the convenience of Amazon and eBay and all these other outlets, to where it's very simple to just hit click, 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 and have it delivered to your doorstep, there is one word of caution I will give to you, because I fell into this pit trap. And what that is, you have to evaluate what you already have in your arsenal, or your library, however you want to look at it. So what can wind up happening, what wound up happening to me, is I acquired so many game systems so quick that I actually got buried underneath all of them. And at that point, trying to learn all these different game systems and rules and remember all of this, it actually turned more into a job than to gaming. And I had to put everything down and take a break for a while and come back to it. And I don't want to see that happen to any of you guys out there. So a word of caution, it's very easy to keep buy. But what I would suggest is learn an RPG system. Use it until you have gotten to the point to where, okay, you played it enough times, you're kind of bored with it, you want a new setting. Maybe you've had enough of the fantasy setting, you want to play sci-fi, or you want to play gothic horror, or you want to play modern day horror. Then at that point, adopt a new system. And you'll find that not only is your money more well spent, but also the books and everything that you do acquire will actually be used. Now, um, I have quite a few books that I have acquired, and I have used them slowly over the years. And a friend of mine that used to operate a hobby shop called Hero Quest, which was his favorite game. And what he would do is when people would bring in old products, when I mean old products, I mean old second edition books and such things, and stuff that I always wanted as a kid, but I could never afford, he would have it there. And I would go in and I would talk to him on Friday nights, and after store hours, he'd say, "Hey, this is everything that I got in that I, whether it was a trade-in or whatever," and he would say, "Make me an offer." And I would go through there, and I collected a lot of books that way. But doing it that way, I actually got a lot on a really good deal. And when I mean really good deal, some of the books I only paid $2 for, others I only paid $5 for. And so it helped me build up a lot of my second edition stuff that I didn't have, which now I have. And I'm very grateful, and I thank Nate for that. But with the systems we have now, just be very careful, be very leery. And that's one of the reasons why I will talk about the books that I found and used them, and explain them to you guys and tell you, hey, this is really good. I found it to be really good for solo RPG. I have had other game systems that look really cool, and I have purchased. And when I got them, I was extremely disappointed. One of them being the Lord of the Rings miniature starter system. And it showed this beautiful fold-out map and all these extremely detailed miniatures, and it looked awesome from what I seen on my computer screen. And then I had ordered it, and when I got it, I'm just like, really? I mean, I got this cheesy little map and I'm like, So that's what I'm talking about. Being, how do I put this? Just a word of caution. If you're new to this, try Basic Fantasy first. If you like it, by all means, go forward, go right ahead. If you're new to it, test the waters first. Just test them and see if you like it. If you like it and you find gaming addictive like I do, and by all means. So what I'm trying to tell you is everything that I will show you in my videos is stuff that I have found to work in my solo RPGs and I've had fun with, and I'm just conveying it to you and saying, hey, you may want to check this out. And once again, guys, I will tell you, I don't get paid by anybody to do any of these videos. All of this stuff that you see around me is all my hard-earned money, and I enjoy it, and that's what I enjoy to do with it. So with that being said, guys, I hope you have fun with your solo RPGs. And for those of you that are in the States, happy and safe 4th of July. And looking forward to more videos. Looking forward to seeing more of you guys on the Facebook and making friends with you and actually having conversations with you. That's awesome. Thank you very much, James. I have to tell you, it was very, very, very cool. Now, to end this video, to explain to you, James is in the UK, and he sent me a picture. Now, for those of us in the States that play role-playing games and wish that we could actually walk through a real castle, James actually has that ability, and he sent me a picture from his home of a castle down the street, which is very cool, and he's been able to go through quite a few. So, I think I'll be asking him a lot of questions when I want to sit there and design some castles. Who better to ask than the person that's actually been in one, right? So, very cool. Looking forward to you guys. Don't be shy. Go ahead and join the Facebook Artichoke Dip page. You'll see me on there. Give me a friend request. Look forward to hearing from you. So, and I'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions that you have. and help you out in any way that I can with your solo RPG, and that's why I made this channel, so you guys can get something out of it. Now, one of the things that I did happen to find with YouTube, and I will explain that, is it seems like what I have found is they are strong-arming a lot of people into running ads on their videos. So I don't want to, but in order to keep making videos and keep you guys informed about solo RPG, you know, what can I say? Not happy about it, but it's the almighty buck. And, you know, that's unfortunately what our world has come to these days. Everything is about the almighty buck, and it's sad. So, very sad. But I don't want to leave this video on a sour note, guys. Not at all. I'm looking forward to getting back to my necromancer, seeing if he actually makes it to the Black Mountains, to the deep crevice of the School of Darkness. The wizards, which focus all their energies on being able to control all of those creatures from the plane of shadow. Goo, 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 goo. Very cool. I love it. I love it. One other thing I want to tell you guys, and I was completely addicted to it all last week, and if you have an Amazon Prime account, you get free video streaming. Check out Britannia. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It is so addictive, I'm telling you. I spent an entire week watching it. Loved it. Really couldn't get into the theme song with... Cool theme song. Like the song, but it just doesn't match the era of the show. So I'm just going to say that. But other than that, for those of you, you know, if you're like me and you like to sit and watch anything on ancient times, particularly that has to do with swords and shields and the mysteries of magic and all that, very cool show to check out. Very highly recommend it. So with that being said, guys, I'm going to get back to my gaming here. As you can see, got it all set up and ready to roll. And one thing before I go, pretty cool. Picked this up and painted it around up. Used it for my dungeons. And got that for about 14 bucks. I'm very happy with it. Worked out very cool. Put that right there. Put my necromancer back in the doorway as he's getting ready to... Well, he's already in the tavern, but the miniature on the board, you know, he's getting ready to ankles over elbows out the door away from the demon I used, which is actually a ring wraith from that Lord of the Rings set I told you that I purchased. And this is the coolest one out of the whole entire one that I seen, except for the other one I seen, which was the Witch King of Agmar, which I bought the single one out of, and I am waiting for that one to come, because, you know, I love Lord of the Rings, but man, I'll tell you what, the Witch King of Agmar is cool. I mean, how can you not be a gamer and see him on the screen come out with that humongous mace and not be like, that is cool? You know what I mean? So, anyways, guys, have a happy, safe 4th of July, guys. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and I'm hoping to get more videos out there and less pushback from YouTube to do it, and be able to stay in touch with you guys. And like I said, please feel free to join the Facebook page. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to answer your questions. Love to talk to you. And, you know, I do this for the love of it. That's the only reason. Trust me, if this was my living, I would be broke living on the street. So, anyways, with that said, I'm going to sign off and get back to gaming, guys. Hope your solo RPGs are great. Can't wait to hear from you. And anything that you guys might have more questions for me that I could do a video on, I will. I know a lot of people have said solo RPGs. In the future, I will do one of those. But as of right now, I'm kind of having fun doing my own little solo RPG. So, but in the future, I'll do one. I want to get the miniature thing out of the way first. That's the thing I really want to get out of the way, and I want to talk about a little bit more about miniatures and helping you guys, if you're just getting into this, how to acquire, make them, paint them, move on, do stuff like that with them as well. So, I'm going to sign off here now. You guys have a great holiday. Stay cool, drink plenty of fluids, stay caffeinated, and game on, my friends. Talk to you later. Artichoke Dip out.